Recording in progress. Oh, are we doing all from the beginning?
In the Pop Culture Cupid podcast, we talk about how pop culture influences our expectations in relationships. I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
Healthy communication. I'm Michelle. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self-relationship. We bring some juicy stories from our own love lives and dating, and it gets pretty interesting. Be focused, we're gonna be to the point, and no digressing.
Self-awareness. Follow, share, subscribe, enjoy.
And like and comment.
If it's shockingly bad, we just re-record another one.
Yeah. No, I think there's some good stuff that you can just nitpick. Recording in progress. I almost missed that one.
Because you were so on.
I
were so on it for the previous one.
Yeah, I know. I had to balance it out. I was like spacing out for a minute. Okay.
The way we are recording it, so because last week we recorded like a couple, but they're not going to be posted at the same time, and we're doing the same now. Anyway,
yeah,
it's organized chaos.
True. Yes, we love it.
We do, at least because we dress the same, it won't be as noticeable.
Yeah, it's true.
Today, we're talking about working through hard times, and you said willing to be unhappy, which is a good it's a good way of putting it. It's a good way of putting it, because people kind of go really fast, but also give up really easily. I think that's why we've got the highest divorce rates as well. Because people don't, I once went on this date with a guy from Tinder, and I was at his place, and we were talking, and he said the problem with Tinder is that I'm always like, it was a huge red flag. He was saying, it's just, I'm always wondering if I can find better and start swiping again. And I was like, okay, great. But I think that's also, if you look, my aunt and uncle who live in the countryside, like really like rural France.
Yeah.
They don't really have many options, and they've been together for, I think, 35 years. And like they're so in love with each other, and they don't even think about other options. And the divorce rate around them is very low. There's still some divorces, but very low. Whereas here in this like urban lifestyle and city, and like there's always somebody to look at and things like that, divorce rates are higher. And I'm just, because there are the options. And it's working through hard times, willing to, you said it, willing to be unhappy, but also just learning to be happy with what you've got, because the grass is not always greener on the other side.
No, the grass is greener where you water it.
Oh, that's a beautiful way of putting it. Well done.
No, I can't take credit. I don't know where I saw it, but it's been going around. But yeah,
it's it's true. And I started posting again on my coaching page and things. And then one of the questions that I'd received was, what's more important, looking after your relationship or looking after the child? And I honestly think it's looking after the relationship, because I notice it that when JT and I are good, we have way more patience for my bonus daughter than when we're not good.
Yeah. I think they're both important, but like, it reminds me of an episode that I saw of Queer Eye, that they went to this family's home. I can't remember if it was for him or her. I think it was for him, and I can't remember. But like at some point they said, like we used to be so close, but now they're basically just strangers, because what happened was they got married, they had kids, and then they just focused on the kids for many years. And this gap between them just grew and grew and grew and grew, to the point where it was very difficult to bridge. And so you get to this point where the kids leave the house, and suddenly you don't recognize your own spouse because you've been neglecting your relationship. And that's the thing, is as humans, I think we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. And if you're not also constantly, communicating with each other and regrouping, then you could either grow together or you could grow apart.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you have kids, it's a constant work of trying to just gauge where you are and see how you can make it better, and just like take time to also work on that relationship and not only on everything else around you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, we talk about, can't, I've said this several times, and I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but it's the difference between, monogamous and polygamous relationships, and no judgment on polygamous relationships. Not that I've tried, but I've kind of
It
met
just sounds way
people,
too
and
exhausting.
but it's, you've got a certain amount of water to water your garden, and you're either
Yeah.
going to put it all over your flower, like, your small plants, and spread it out and have a lot of small plants, which is great, or you're going to water this one huge plant and have one amazing plant, which is great as well. But the
Good
the
analogy.
thing is,
Yeah.
pardon?
Good analogy.
Thank you. That comes from me. I invented it.
Amazing. You're so good at coming up with these analogies. I love it.
But it's but the key in like the key information there is that you still have to water it and put energy into it if you want
Yeah.
anything to come up from it. And it's just, you know, and there are exceptions, obviously, and I would say anything that has to do with violence, verbal or physical, is like
No.
a dead end.
No.
But literally anything else, including cheating, I would say this needs, we can work on this. Because even though cheating is bad, we've spoken about this before, about how I don't feel that cheating should end in a relationship. It's going to be a roadblock, but it shouldn't be an end, a full stop. There are things that that are hurdles that you need to get through, and don't be afraid of arguing. And just recent, well, JT and I haven't had a big argument, but we've had big arguments,
Mm-hmm.
in the past 2 years. But then when we come back from these arguments, we feel so safe in our relationship that we know that it's not the end.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one argument nearly was the end. But we talked through it and we worked through it, because if you stopped at any roadblock, then you just wouldn't get anywhere.
Yeah. I once told Dev that like I don't want to have to fear that every argument is going to be the end. And I want him to have that security as well. Is like, you're allowed to be angry at each other. You're allowed to be frustrated. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to take out your anger. And I think when you're so secure in your relationship, then it takes a bit of weight off of it, because you're not fearing for the relationship while being angry, and you're not holding back on your anger because you're scared of losing the person. And I think I've, I was single for 7 years, and so the more you're single, the harder I feel like the harder it was to find someone, because the less I was willing to compromise. And there is no relationship without compromise. Sure, you shouldn't go for someone that you're not attracted to, that you just don't love, or someone that doesn't align with your values. You don't have to compromise on the important things, but there's always going to be something that's not, exactly like it is, and you just have to decide what you're willing to compromise on. And I hate the conversation on why someone's still single, because I've been there and it's hard, and it's like not always a choice. But I feel like a lot of people are single because they're not willing to put in the work, and they're not willing to make space, or they want everything to either be perfect or nothing at all. And we see it a lot in all these shows that we watch, the Love is Blind and the
Yeah.
Ultimatum, people who just want things to be fairy tale love, to be perfect like in the movies. And there's always, I can guarantee you, there's always going to be someone else out there
Yeah.
that you can find. I don't believe in the one. I think there's people that are better suited for you and people that are not. But at some point, you have to say, this is it. Like there was an interview that I watched with, what's his name? Oh, that famous dating coach. His name is not in my head right now. I'll come back. He said, like, it's like the who did he take? The Americans, like when they were traveling and trying to find a new place to settle, you could go on forever. You can keep going and exploring the earth and finding new places. At some point, you have to say, this is it. There's gonna be more places to go see. But at some point you have to say, this is it. And I think with Ze'ev, it's a first relationship. I might have said this before, but like it's a first relationship where I haven't even thought about of like what else is out there. And every other relationship, I used to think, oh my God, I had this like this pit feeling of like this, there must be something else better. And I think a lot of times it's just because there's something in that specific relationship that's not good, or maybe it's not the right person. But like when you find the right person, or when you're working on the relationship and making it better, then you're sort of letting go of that feeling of what else is out there.
Yeah.
Or when you're content with what you have,
But it's, I'll bring back, the conversation to sex and things like that. I mean, JT and I have a really good sex life, and the reason why we exactly the reason why we have a good sex life is because we are so open about what we like and what we don't like. And I won't go into examples because of his privacy, but there are things that I'm not too keen on doing, and there are things that he's not too keen on doing. And especially now with the pregnancy, like my body's changed and everything has changed, and so there are things that we're not as keen on doing as we used to be, and things like that. And talking about it has allowed us to kind of evolve and build on it and make it grow. Whereas if we didn't talk about it and we've just kind of fantasized about what it would be with other people, especially as he's 34, I'm 33. We've had partners in the past that were willing to do different things and blah blah blah. It would be so easy to fall into comparing, but we don't. We talk about it and we just build on it. And so for the sex, it's I firmly believe that talking about sex is sexy and
it is.
Leads to sex, and it's for me always a very enjoyable conversation. But it's the same principle for every other aspect, where if it's something as futile as I need you to put the bath mat on the bath once you're out of the shower, I need you to he needs me to not put the glass in the dishwasher until he's used it for a couple of days because that's the way he is. It can be as futile as that, or it can be, I need you to not be on your phone while we're in bed. I need you to respond to my messages more or less fast.
Yeah. Setting healthy boundaries that help you communicate better.
And these are things, a big argument that we had, it was concerning his ex, because obviously he has a child with her.
Yeah.
And finding the right balance and, as you said, boundaries and everything with that, it was tough. And there were huge arguments because he's, it's not just his ex, it's the mother of his child. So she has a position in our relationship, like she's going to be in our lives forever. And that was tough. And I asked myself the questions of, do I really want this? Do I really want to move forward with somebody who's gotten a very intrusive person in their lives, and he's letting her, and it was tough. And so, and it took a good 6 months to kind of find our bearings. And there was one option where I could have just given up. And I took the second option, which was to work on it, and it was tough. But look at us now. And she's way less intrusive, to be honest. Like, he and I talked about what we want our lives to look like. the ideal situation and then the realistic situation. And then, we put forward, and then it's because we were so clear with each other, the outside environment impacted us less.
Yeah.
Because I'd be interested to ask him like what huge compromises he's done for me. Um, I'll ask him, and like maybe I'll post something later. But I definitely did some huge compromising. But because I knew that it was worth it, because by the time we were having those arguments, we'd been together for a while, and he was cooking me dinners, he was buying me flowers, he was so affectionate, he was such a good listener, such a good. I was like, well, I mean, okay, I've got all of these amazing things. I can't have everything, so I'm just gonna work on the tough stuff.
Yeah. We tend to overly focus on the things that are not working or the things that they're lacking, and then either completely miss or just don't see the good things that they
Mm.
have or the good things they do for us. And it's just important to focus on that and on just showing each other that love and care no matter what. And because I mean, no matter, so with JT, it's like the issue with his ex and his boat and your bonus child, but with a different person, it could be something else entirely. There's always going to be something that comes up, and if you just give up and are not willing to have any compromises or not willing to be even the slightest bit unhappy, then you're never going to find someone who's going to truly make you happy. And I think obviously it all starts with being happy with ourselves first and foremost. And I think just in general, when you're in a relationship and with a person, I think you said it once that the person that you're with the most is the person that you're most likely to argue with,
Yeah,
because you're just with them all the time and there's things that come up. And and in Zev's and I's our annual argument, we had not long ago. I had like this new thing came up of like this thought came up of when you're arguing, you still need to show each other love, care, and affection. In the sense of like, it doesn't mean that you have to be all lovey-dovey throughout the argument, but we had this, I don't even know how to define what this argument was about, but we had a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. And throughout this argument, I just felt like Zev did not care about me whatsoever. And
mm,
that was the most difficult thing in the whole thing. I was
yeah,
hurt from the argument itself and from what happened, but just that feeling that he was like so angry, and there's these specific arguments that we have where he gets into a specific mode where he's just seeing red, and he's like completely detached, and he's aware of this, and we've spoken about it, but it's really hard because I felt like this person who's supposed to love me no matter what, this person who I'm so deeply in love with, just doesn't care.
yeah.
I'm hurt and I'm insulted and I'm like feeling all alone in this. And I remember it was like a few days of like just all over the place. And and on Friday night, we went to my sister's for a Friday night meal, and we were still a bit iffy with each other. And I remember at some point we're all sitting around, and my 7-year-old niece, I don't know why she came up with this, but children and their things, but she suddenly she turned to her mother and she goes, right when daddy and mommy argue, they still love each other. And I was like,
Very
it was just such a,
perceptive.
yeah, and it's such a like this innocent kind of, she's very perceptive in general. She asks very interesting questions. But at that moment, I just wanted to burst out crying because I was just like, I was so emotionally drained from the argument. I was feeling so alone already
Oh,
because of the whole thing. And I was just like, and later on that night, Zev and I finally had a proper conversation. And he was like, I don't understand why a 7-year-old child can have this deep
perception.
perception of this, but I'm having a hard time expressing love while being angry. And I think that's something that we can learn from
Yeah.
a 7-year-old child, of just like learning to have that. I don't know that, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just like that kind of,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just this morning, my bonus daughter was, oh, I could have, I could have strangled her. She, I mean, I guess she's feeling that, the baby's coming and everything, and I get it. But she looked at me and she said, "Do you still love me?" And I was like, so, I mean, obviously I crouched down and I said, "Listen, it's not because you're behaving badly that I don't love you, but it's not an excuse." And we had a talk, and
yeah,
we were thinking about it of just, you know, yeah, just it's not because we're arguing that there's no love. And JT said something, because it's been tough with her this week. It's been
mm,
she's been tough. And I think JT, was yesterday or day before yesterday, that he said angrily, "I love you. You're being annoying, but I was always love you." And he said it in a way, it was just, he's very good
yeah,
at reminding her that he loves her, even though he's angry with her. Oh, and then he said, "And it's because I love you that I'm angry with you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't
you
care what
wouldn't
you
care.
do."
Yeah.
And I think that's such a, it's obvious. Yes, obviously we love our children and we love them and we care. But I mean, I was like, it's true. Like, if his ex cheated on him, um,
Mm,
and I'm and he didn't care because he didn't love her anymore.
yeah,
Whereas
it's
I
true.
think that if it happened now, it would devastate him. And I think that's the key of just, you know, arguing again within the, without violence, is a sign of caring. And I think that's why, you want to work through it. And I think arguing too often isn't healthy either.
Hmm.
But if there's a bump in the road, you want, if there's a bump in the road a week after you met the guy, then no. But after, a couple of months, so not that long, you want to see where it goes. There has to be a bump, not a mountain.
Yeah.
The longer the road, the bigger the bump, I'd say.
Yeah. I think to tie it back to being willing to be unhappy, I think there's like you have to set a sort of like metaphorical timer of like,
Mm,
how long am I willing to be unhappy? And what do I need to happen in this time to justify it? So I have a friend that is not happy in her relationship, and she keeps saying, okay, this is a timestamp, but nothing happens. He's not doing anything to really change or to help them move forward. And so she keeps moving that timestamp forward, and he keeps like, so your word means nothing. So it doesn't matter what
yeah,
timestamp you put on it. I'm just not going to care. Like, he's not
yeah,
taking it seriously. And so then it just keeps dragging out and they keep being unhappy. So, yes, you should be willing to be unhappy with quotation marks, but to a certain extent. It doesn't mean that you have to be miserable in your relationship. It just means it's okay to not be completely happy in it. And if something's bothering you in it, you have to be proactive in trying to fix or change
yeah,
or work on what's making you unhappy like that. And if
yeah,
one side keeps dragging it out and not willing to talk about it or not willing to work on it, then it's not worth being unhappy. But if you're
yeah,
both putting in the effort and both being communicative and being willing to work, then that unhappiness is worth it. And nothing lasts forever. I keep reminding myself when I go through hard times, when I'm feeling anxious or when I'm feeling sad, this is not going to go on forever.
yeah,
And when we're in it, a lot of times it feels like this feeling is never going to end, but it will end. It will get better as long as you are proactive and do something about it, you know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I was thinking to other couples that I know and my parents and things. My mum went through a really tough time a few years ago, and my dad stuck around because he's a great guy. But I think
Yeah.
also part of him was like, I don't know, was I, how old was I? Yeah, it must have been 20. So they would have been 20, they would have been together for 25 years at this point. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that a part of him was like, I've been with this woman for 25 years. We have 3 kids, 3 properties, whatever. Like, it's not because it's tough that I need to give up. Like, it was tough on him as well, but they worked through it, and and it lasted a good few years. Like, it was a
Yeah.
tough time in my family. Um, but they got over it. They
Yeah.
got over it.
Which is
And it
amazing.
wasn't, and it yeah, it didn't cross that violence boundary, and then so they
Mhm.
just worked through it. Because I mean, also imagine starting it, unless you love it, but this isn't the point. But starting all over again after that amount of time.
Wow.
I
No,
mean,
that's crazy.
some of my coaching clients that are men, the women left, and then when they told me kind of why, I was just like, these are the women that are giving up extremely easily because they think that the
Mm-hmm.
grass is greener. The men, I the men kind of recognize that they kind of let go and put in less effort,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was coaching them, so helping them through it. But I would have also told the women, you need to put in some effort as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you do? It takes constant effort and work, like anything in life. If you want to stay fit and not gain weight or not be unhealthy, then you have to live a healthy lifestyle. And it has to be
Exactly.
something that you're doing constantly and not like a month here, a month there, a week here, a day
Yep.
there. And also being able to show love, care, and affection even when it's hard. And to remind each other, I still love you and I still care about you, even though I'm angry with you. And also to accept that it's okay that you're angry with me. I'm allowing you to be angry with me,
Mm,
and that's fine.
yeah. And be
Anyway,
uncomfortable.
and be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, be willing to work through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whew.
What Tell us, like, what huge compromises that you did and then
Yeah.
but ended up working out.
Yeah. And if you're willing to be unhappy, and for how long are you willing to be unhappy?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
don't forget to like, comment, subscribe wherever you are. Join
Yeah.
our community. Be happy
And
to see
see
you
you
there.
guys soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.